The Singapore Premier League is back, and so are we. Welcome to a brand new season of SPL Express. I'm Abhishek Ravikrishnan, and it's great to be in the company of you, as well as this man, Rhysh, Roshan. We're going to hear from him very shortly, but first, let's recap what transpired over Matchweek 1. The Lion City Sailors marked their return to the Bishan Stadium with a 3-1 win over Tanjong Pagar. Defending champions Albirex Niigata also got their campaign off to a winning start with victory over the Young Lions. The year's first Eastern derby ended in a 1-1 draw, while Hougang United left it late against Balestier Khalsa, edging them 3-2. And on Tuesday night, Geylang International braved the wet weather and threat from Young Lions to come away with 3 points. And that puts them on top of the standings, having played a match more than the other teams. Albirex Niigata, LCS, Hougang and Tampines all with points on the board after the opening weekend. So a very interesting opening weekend in the Singapore Premier League. This man has been watching all the action. Roshan, what was your biggest takeaway from the first week in the Premier League?
I mean, I think the main thing everyone was sort of looking forward to seeing how it would do is VAR. And I think so far it's been going pretty smoothly. Certain things could be tightened up, certain actions could be done a little bit quicker. But for the first sort of time we're seeing this technology come into Singapore football, I think it's been pretty smooth so far, and you expect to see that improvement come along as the weeks go by.
Quickly touching on VR, there's some incidents where the public might have thought the VR should have intervened, or maybe they shouldn't have intervened.
Yeah.
Could you pick out some incidents where you think that, look, the VR was right or wrong in making the decisions and explain the thought behind it?
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility, working on the broadcast as well, to sort of clear up these situations, try and educate the public if they're not so aware of how these decisions were made. And I think off the top of my head, the first one I can think of was Geylang against Young Lions. There was an incident where Naufal just sort of made a little bit of a movement towards Aizil Azid, the Young Lions goalkeeper, who actually spilled the ball. So what happened in that situation was the referee perhaps should have waited a little bit for the ball to go into the back of the net so that VAR could take a look. But once he blows the whistle, that's it. VAR, the play stopped. VAR cannot then go back and look at that. So that's the explanation as to why VAR didn't sort of go back into it.
Because that looked like a legitimate goal.
It did look like a legitimate goal, but again, once the whistle goes, the VAR cannot then step in and say, we need to overturn that decision. So that's one of the reasons. So that is the reason why VAR didn't step in on that occasion. The other incident that was interesting to me was a situation in the Eastern Derby where Faris Ramli, there was a coming together between him and Huzaifa in the penalty area. Now, the referee at the time didn't award the penalty. So the important thing to remember here is that the VAR and the referee on the pitch are in constant communication with each other. And what they're talking about is they will ask, the VAR was the referee, describe to me what you've seen in that action. And the referee will say, I saw this, and this happen. This is my rationale for not giving the penalty. And the VAR will then look at the footage and try to determine if it matches what the referee has said. If there's no reason for them to sort of get that evidence where it's a clear and obvious error, where they don't have enough of that evidence, then they can't overturn the decision. So the referee decided in that situation it wasn't a penalty. VAR was quite happy to stick with the on-field call.
Well, let's go to the on-field action as well. Sailors, they opened up the season with a 3-1 win over Tanjong Pagar. The key to the game, Lestian and Tanaka both combining. I mean, we've spoken a lot about how Sailors have had to offload players. One of the players they have brought in is Kodai Tanaka, and he seems to have combined well with Lestian right off the go.
It's such a good signing, a very smart signing as well. Tanaka coming in, the contributions that he put in for Albirex Niigata last season wasn't just goals, but with his assists as well, some incredible numbers. And the same with Lestian for the Lion City Sailors. Now the two of them playing with each other for the same team. It was so important that Sailors were able to retain sort of Lestienne. I know he's on a longer term contract by Singapore football standards, and it's important that he's in the side because he's going to create all sorts of problems for opposition defences across the league with the quality of his delivery and the consistency in that quality. We saw it with his 3 assists in that game. And with Kodai Tanaka, such a smart, intelligent striker, getting into really good positions, and with that finishing touch as well, you do feel like these two are going to form quite a strong partnership this season for Lion City Sailors.
And I just want to get your quick word on this. In terms of deadly duos, is this one of the deadliest we've seen in the league so far?
In recent memory, I think off the top of my head, I was trying to think back, and I think off the top of my head, Faris Ramli and Stipe Plazibat, maybe in 2019 for Hougang. I think that was pretty good, pretty deadly as well. Faris Ramli had an outstanding season, and I know Stipe Plazibat absolutely loved playing with him.
Faris' best season actually in the league.
That's right. In terms of the numbers that he was putting out. So that's a partnership right off the top of my head. I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, if I go back, years now into when I first started watching the league, or when I was a young player going through and watching
Remember
these
the
big
Tanjung Pagar,
players like
Nicodim
Nicodim
Boucher,
Boucher, the likes of him contributing.
Yeah.
You then had I was thinking of Singapore Armed Forces as well. I could go with, you remember Shaiful Issa?
Yeah.
Sweet left
With
foot
foot,
with the
yeah.
delivery, and his delivery is meeting the head of Alexander
Yeah,
Duric.
yeah.
I think that's a deadly partnership as well. I could even mention Tertsak and Duric, or even Perez de Oliveira and Indra Sharan, or Perez and Egma. All sorts of partnerships. I mean, we've got our favorites. We've mentioned a few. I mean, I'd love to know what the opinions are out there of our viewers.
So the viewers can get in touch with us via social media to let us know who you think the deadliest duos are in the SPL. Let's move on to Albirex Niigata. They started their campaign with a win against the Young Lions. Again, it's a new look Albirex Niigata side, Roshan.
Yeah.
So which players so far in this opening games from the Community Shield and from that first game against the Young Lions in the league, which players stood out for you?
Yeah, it's always a new look Albirex
Yeah.
Niigata. Almost every season they got to revamp and rejig the squad.
Which is testament to what they keep on doing.
And it's been excellent. I mean, great scouting, finding some excellent players. I think Asahi Yokokawa is fantastic, the standout player for me, because he comes with really good pedigree from Shonan Belmare, a J1 side, and expect him to have that quality, and he's shown glimpses of that already in the league so far. Shuto as well. I mean, Shuto Komaki. I mean, it's hard not to pick out a player whose name is Shuto, because you expect lots of shots from him, right? Got himself on the score sheet as well. So there are a number of players in that Albirex Niigata side that you could actually sort of look at as well. Shoda is another one. The number 14, Seiya Kunori, the number 10 as well. All these players have got good technical upbringing, good tactical understanding as well, and the fact that they've gotten their year off to a very good start, back-to-back 3-0 wins, it gives this side lots of confidence, I'm sure, going forward.
Let's talk about Albirex as a whole as well. This is their 20th season in the SPL. What have you made of the contributions to the local league and the ecosystem here in Singapore football?
We do often talk about Albirex Niigata and the contribution, or at least I find myself talking about them. Quite often people will look at these foreign clubs like Albirex and say, what do they bring? And they bring a lot. I think they've been a really big part of the league for many, many years now, and they've really contributed a lot in terms of that community outreach as well. They're reaching out to people that live in the area, providing coaching clinics, coaching sessions. They've got an academy with Singaporean players in their academy team, Singaporean coaches being given a chance to work through that system and learn from Albirex Niigata and that philosophy that they have. And young Singaporean players being a part of the Albirex Niigata squad and seeing what it's like training in that sort of environment. I mean, we've seen them train in like some incredibly difficult conditions at like 11 a.m. in the morning when it's really hot, and local teams aren't used to training at those sorts of times. And the discipline as well that we've seen, things like cleaning their own footballs, the white footballs that some people say gets dirty, and then they clean their own footballs as well. So putting in that sort of discipline and that growth mentality and that growth mindset, I think they've really been a big plus and provide a big boost to the league over the years, and I'm hoping this relationship goes on and continues.
Let's move on now to another club who seems to be growing in the right direction, Tampines Rovers, under Gavin Lee. And one player who we are looking at right now is Faris Ramli.
Yeah.
He's a new signing.
Yeah.
He's been in the league long enough, been in the local setup long enough, but is a different type of player as to what Gavin might want. How does he fit in the system?
I feel he is going to add a lot of quality and experience. Faris Ramli, I think, has come in for some really unfair criticism at times over the last couple of seasons. He is an incredibly talented footballer.
But is the criticism leveled at him because of the position he plays in?
I don't know. I think people just get frustrated easily. You can be a very good footballer and have a dip in form. Similarly, you can make a mistake and still be really good at what you do. I think sometimes we're in this day and age where we're quick to jump on people for one or two mistakes, or maybe a dip in form that lasts a few matches or a few months. But when you look at what he's contributed to the league, what he's contributed to the national team, he's a very exciting footballer, and he's contributed a lot. And he's an incredibly nice guy as well. Very humble, down to earth, Faris. And I think it's a very smart signing that Tampines have made here. Again, he's going to bring his experience, he's going to bring his quality, silky skills, ability to take on defenders. Very smart, very intelligent in how he beats his man. And we saw evidence of that. His composure in those attacking areas. And Tampines Rovers, I've touched on the fact that they've been very smart in the transfer window, and this is one of the smart signings that they've made in terms of adding quality in attack, but also bringing that experience to what is actually quite a young Tampines Rovers squad overall.
So it'll be interesting to see how Faris Ramli and the Stags fare this Friday. They face Tanjung Pagar. And at the same time, it's the big one over at the Bishan Stadium. Lion City Sailors welcome Brunei DPMM, who are back in the league after 3 seasons. Balestier Khalsa and Young Lions clash on Saturday, while Geylang take on Hougang on Sunday. So looking ahead to those fixtures, Brunei DPMM back in the league.
Yeah.
What do you make of the side coming into the league, Roshan?
There's this word that I always find myself using. Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on, Brunei DPMM. The last time we saw them was in 2020, I think, before they had just before the pandemic really hit, and they had to sort of drop out of the league. 2019 champions. They got some players. Varanku is the one I'm thinking of.
And he's still in the squad. Yeah,
he's still in the squad, and he'll be a goal threat for them up front. In terms of local talent, Hakimi, I think, is a very exciting young player. He could cause a few issues for opposition defenses in the league this season. Small, short, quick, powerful, dynamic, on the wing, very tricky to sort of deal with. So he's one I expect to make a contribution. Wafi, a young central defender as well in this side, another one to sort of keep an eye on. And Jaime Nyaring, I know they've got a foreign goalkeeper, but Jaime Nyaring for me was excellent at the AFF Mitsubishi Electric Cup recently for Brunei. So yeah, these are some of the young talents coming through in that side. And you always expect them to sort of be there or thereabouts, right? We don't know too much about the squad overall in terms of how it'll start to click on the pitch. But judging by their history in the game, 2-time champions, you expect them to be, again, sort of challenging for those top spots as well.
And they face a very stern test against Sailors straight off the bat.
Yeah, brilliant. And this is the excellent thing about the league for me, is in my view, I feel like there are at least 5 teams who are capable of taking points off each other and really challenging for the title. And DPMM, Lion City Sailors will be two of those 5 teams. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this game, especially with how DPMM go in their first game back, how they deal with the threat of Lestien and Tanaka that we spoke about, if those two end up playing for the Sailors, and then how they test Lion City Sailors on the defensive side of things, because that can be a little bit of an inexperienced or youngish sort of defense, which can be tested by DPMM, especially with the quality that Varanku has up front.
Let's talk about another game which is taking place on Bishan. On Saturday, Balestier against Young Lions. Balestier did not get the result that they wanted in the opening game against Hougang. Have they turned the corner here with Peter Deru, who has had some time with the team and had a full preseason with them as well?
Well, I first of all, I love listening to Peter Deru. I think he's very good value, gives a lot of insight in his interviews, whether it's pre-match or post-match. I think he's trying to work on a few things with the club and can see that sort of identity starting to come in. But still, there are certain elements of the old Balestier still at play here in terms of those lapses defensively, the quality not quite being there. I think they've done pretty well to strengthen the side in the off-season. He has, I think, closer to perhaps what he needs to try and make the things that he wants to work out of this side. And it's a long season, but you expect them to be going into this game against the Young Lions as the favourites, just because of the quality that they have up front, the threat that Balestier Khalsa will pose against this inexperienced Young Lions side, who, for them, it could be another tough campaign. Again, they look exciting going forward, but those concentration levels for a young side, that tactical discipline in the second half, it starts to slip for them, and those are things that they need to work on.
And quickly on the game on Sunday, Geylang against Hougang. That could be a very, very interesting one.
Big one. I mean, Geylang International started off the season very well, right? 2 matches, 1 draw, 1 win, top of the league going into Matchweek 2. So they'll want to try and maintain their position at the top of the standings. But for Hougang, they are one of the 5 sides for me to be title challengers, to be challenging for the title.
Even after the first 2 games, after you saw the Community Shield.
Even after the first two games, and even if they do sort of fall away, and that result doesn't come, then you'd ask the question: why is this Hougang side, who have so much talent, so much quality, and who've strengthened in the right sort of departments, especially in central defense? They've got an experienced goalkeeper in Zaiful who's come in. Krajcek is doing his best, and he's still working his way towards full fitness, and he's still contributing to the side. And all the other players in there, the likes of Sahil, Emi Reka, and so on, Nazrul, they got national team caliber players in that Hougang side. So for me, when you look at them on paper, it cannot be another disappointing season in the league. So they do have to start picking up these points, these results along the way. They struggled a little bit against Balestier in the second half, but they got away with it with the 3 points. But I'm sure down the road, as the weeks go on, the performances, they'll want to improve upon that and they'll want to tighten things up at the back.
Well, still early days in the SPL. Let's recap what our feature game of the week is. It's Lion City Sailors up against Brunei DPMM. Coverage begins from 7:15 p.m. You can join Colette Wong and Shashi Kumar on that match. So lots of football to look forward to this weekend. You can catch the games live on our YouTube channel. Till next week, goodbye.